My husband said I was selfish for refusing to loan his brother $15,000. That was before I showed him the Venmo requests I'd been ignoring for months. It started innocently enough. His brother Garrett had always been the family favorite. Charming, quick with a joke, perpetually broke. When he asked to borrow money for a new business venture, my husband Theo didn't hesitate. Family helps family, he said, typing out the transfer without discussion. That was 3 years ago. We never saw that money again. Now Garrett was back, this time needing funds for emergency dental work. Theo stood in our kitchen, phone in hand, waiting for me to agree. I'd been managing our finances since we got married. I was the one who saw our savings slowly depleting. No, I said simply. Theo's face hardened. He's my brother. He needs help. He always needs help. You're being cruel. I pulled out my phone and opened Venmo. What I showed him made his face go pale. For 8 months, Garrett had been requesting money from me directly. Small amounts at first, $20 here, $50 there. For groceries, the note said. For gas. For my daughter's birthday gift. Then the request got bigger. $200 for utilities, $500 for car repairs, $800 for rent. I'd ignored every single one. Not because I was cruel, but because I'd done something Theo never thought to do. I'd looked into what Garrett was really spending money on. Remember when he said he needed $3,000 for his daughter's medical bills? I asked. Theo nodded slowly. She's on her mother's insurance. There were no medical bills. I pulled up screenshots I'd saved, photos from Garrett's Instagram, gambling at casinos, bottles of premium liquor, designer sneakers, all posted the same weeks he'd claimed to be destitute. He's scamming us, I said. He's been scamming your whole family for years. Theo sat down heavily. That can't be right. He wouldn't. I hired a private investigator. I interrupted. 3 months ago, when you wanted to co-sign a loan for him. I handed Theo the report. Garrett had credit cards maxed out at nearly $80,000. He'd borrowed from multiple family members, Theo's parents, his sister, 2 cousins, all with sob stories that never quite added up. None of them knew about the others. The investigator had found something else too. Garrett had been posting in online forums, bragging about his technique. He called it emotional arbitrage, manipulating family guilt for profit. There's a whole thread, I said quietly, where he discusses which family members are easiest to con. You're at the top of his list. He calls you his golden goose. Theo's hands shook as he read. I watched my husband's face cycle through disbelief, anger, and heartbreak. The brother he'd defended for years, the one he'd fought with me about, it was all a lie. I wanted to tell you sooner, I said, but I knew you wouldn't believe me without proof. Theo looked up, eyes red. What do we do? I pulled out one more document, the family group chat I'd created in secret. His parents, his sister, the cousins. I'd contacted each of them, compared notes, and compiled evidence. We're all meeting tomorrow, I said. Everyone Garrett's been stealing from. We're going to confront him together. Theo nodded, then stopped. Wait, if you've been planning this for 3 months, what about the dental work? I smiled grimly. There is no dental work, but I did find out what the $15,000 is really for. I pulled up one final screenshot. His brother had been evicted from 3 different apartments. The money wasn't for teeth. It was for back rent, late fees, and moving costs. But here's what Theo didn't know yet. Garrett had already found his next target. Yesterday, he'd reached out to my father, claiming we were in financial trouble and needed help. He'd sent photos of our house, our cars, saying we were about to lose everything. My father, who'd been battling cancer and had limited savings for his treatment, had just transferred Garrett $12,000. The color drained from Theo's face completely. He what? I showed him the text exchange my father had forwarded to me just an hour ago. Dad thought he was helping us. He'd liquidated part of his retirement account, money earmarked for his immunotherapy treatments, because Garrett had convinced him we were about to be homeless. Your brother told my father that our mortgage company was foreclosing, I said, my voice shaking with rage I'd been holding back for hours. He said we were too proud to ask for help ourselves. He sent Dad a fake foreclosure notice with our address on it. Theo grabbed the counter to steady himself. That money was for his treatment. I know. He could die without... I know, I repeated, harder this time. I'd spent the last hour on the phone with my father, trying to explain without completely breaking down. Dad had been apologetic, embarrassed that he'd fallen for it. But more than that, he'd been confused about why his son-in-law's brother would do something so cruel. I'd wanted to tell him the truth right then, that Garrett was a professional con artist who'd been bleeding his own family dry for years, that my husband's family had enabled this behavior since Garrett was a teenager, bailing him out of every bad decision with money and excuses. But I'd held back, because I had a plan. Tomorrow's meeting, I said to Theo. Your father's house. 2 p.m. Everyone will be there. What about your dad? I pulled out my laptop and opened a video call window. He'll be joining remotely, along with a few other people Garrett probably doesn't want to see. The next day, I arrived at my in-laws' house an hour early. Theo's mother, Patricia, answered the door with red-rimmed eyes. She'd been crying since I'd sent her the investigator's report last night. I can't believe I didn't see it, she said, leading me to the dining room where she'd already set out coffee and pastries that no one would touch. All those years, I just thought he was unlucky. He counted on that, I said. Theo's father, Raymond, sat at the head of the table, looking older than I'd ever seen him. The report had hit him hardest. Garrett had borrowed nearly $50,000 from his parents over the past 5 years, always with promises to pay it back once his next big thing came through. I gave him money for his daughter's private school tuition, Raymond said, his voice hollow. He told me her mother couldn't afford it, that he wanted to give his little girl opportunities. The daughter's in public school, I said gently. She always has been. Her mother confirmed it. Raymond's jaw clenched. Where's that money? Gone. Casinos mostly. Some online sports betting. The investigator traced his transaction. The doorbell rang. Theo's sister, Diane, arrived with her husband, followed by cousins Brandon and Whitney. Each of them carried the same shell-shocked expression. Each of them had received their own copy of the report last night, detailing exactly how much Garrett had taken from them. Brandon had loaned Garrett $8,000 for a car after his was supposedly totaled. Garrett still drove a 15-year-old sedan with a dented bumper. Whitney had given him $5,000 for his daughter's medical expenses. There were no medical expenses. Diane had co-signed an apartment lease for him 2 years ago. He'd stopped paying rent after 3 months, leaving her credit score destroyed and owing $12,000 to the landlord. We gathered around the dining room table, this family that had always prided itself on loyalty and forgiveness. The investigator had tallied the total. Garrett had stolen over $140,000 from his own relatives in the past 5 years alone. How do we know he's coming? Whitney asked. Because I told him we were having a family meeting to discuss a business investment opportunity, Theo said. His voice was flat, emotionless. My husband had barely slept. He'd spent most of the night reading through the forum posts where his brother bragged about manipulating him. I told him a wealthy friend of mine wanted to invest in the right person, and the family needed to discuss who would be the best candidate. And he bought that? Immediately. He asked how much money was involved. At 1:55 p.m., my laptop chimed. I opened the video call. My father appeared on screen, looking tired but determined. Next to him sat my brother, a corporate attorney who'd agreed to join us. And in a third window, Detective Ramirez from the Financial Crimes Unit. I'd filed a report 3 days ago about the fraud Garrett had committed against my father. The detective had been very interested to learn about the broader pattern. Everyone's in position, I said. At exactly 2:00 p.m., Garrett's truck pulled into the driveway. He walked in wearing his most charming smile, the one that had gotten him out of trouble his entire life. He'd dressed up for the occasion, button-down shirt, pressed khakis, even cologne. He hugged his mother, shook his father's hand, and nodded at the rest of us like he was holding court. So, where's this investor? He asked, settling into a chair. The friend with the big opportunity? There is no investor, Theo said. Garrett's smile faltered for just a moment before sliding back into place. What? There's no opportunity, no business deal, no money. Garrett looked around the table, his expression shifting from confusion to concern as he noticed everyone's faces. Okay, what's going on? Is this some kind of intervention? Not exactly, I said, turning my laptop so he could see the screen. His face went white when he saw my father. Hi, Garrett, Dad said through the speakers. Remember me? The cancer patient you stole from? Garrett stood up so fast his chair tipped over. I don't know what she told you, but sit down. Raymond's voice cut through the room like a blade. Now. Garrett had never heard his father use that tone. He sat. I pulled out a folder, printed copies of everything. The Venmo requests, the Instagram posts, the forum threads, the credit card statements, the investigator's report. Every lie, every manipulation, every dollar stolen. For the past 3 months, I said, I've been documenting every fraudulent claim you've made to this family, every fake emergency, every non-existent crisis. I slid the first document across the table. These are your posts from Financial Freedom Tour 7, where you brag about emotional arbitrage. That's you, right? User Golden Touch 88? Garrett's eyes darted between the paper and the door. You're insane. That's not... The IP address matches your apartment. My brother's voice came through the laptop. I've already confirmed it with the forum administrators, along with the email address you registered with. GarrettWilcox1985@gmail.com. That is your email, isn't it? Garrett's throat bobbed as he swallowed. Brandon leaned forward. The car I gave you $8,000 for, the one that was supposedly totaled. Want to explain why it's still in your ex-wife's driveway? I drove by this morning. My daughter's medical bills, Whitney added, her voice shaking with barely controlled anger. The ones I gave you $5,000 for. I called the hospital. They have no record of treating her for anything you claimed. The apartment lease I co-signed, Diane said. The one where you destroyed my credit. I found out you moved your girlfriend in and used the rent money to take her to Vegas 4 times. Garrett held up his hands. Okay, look, I can explain all of this. I made some mistakes, sure, but you told my father that we were about to lose our house, Theo said. Each word was precise, controlled. You sent him a forged foreclosure notice. You took money meant for his cancer treatment. That was a misunderstanding. You called him yesterday, I interrupted, pulling out my phone. After he sent you the money. Want to hear the recording? I pressed play. Garrett's voice filled the room, smooth and concerned. I know this is hard, but I promise Theo and your daughter will be okay. I'm going to help them through this. That's what family does. And hey, if you have any other savings you could access, it might help cover their moving costs too. My father's voice, weak from treatment. I wish I had more to give. This is all I have left. Garrett's response. I understand. Just don't mention this to them, okay? They're too proud. They'd be embarrassed if they knew you were helping. The recording stopped. Silence filled the room. There's more, I said. The investigator found 11 other people you've conned. People who aren't in this room. Your former employer, who fired you for stealing from petty cash. 3 different landlords, 2 ex-girlfriends. A former business partner who's still paying off debt from your failed venture that was never actually a business at all. I pulled out another document. This is a statement from your daughter's mother. She's willing to testify that you haven't paid child support in 14 months, despite telling everyone in this family that you're maxed out financially because of your custody payments. Garrett's facade finally cracked. You had no right to go digging into my life. You had no right to steal from your family, Theo shot back. I didn't steal anything. You all gave me that money willingly. Under false pretenses, my brother said through the laptop, which legally constitutes fraud. Theft by deception, to be specific. That's when I revealed the final piece. Detective Ramirez has been listening to this entire conversation, I said, gesturing to the third video window. He's filed charges based on the evidence I provided regarding my father's case. That's felony fraud, Garrett. My father is a vulnerable adult undergoing medical treatment. The penalties are enhanced. Garrett's face went from white to gray. You can't do this. I'm family. That's exactly why we can do this, Patricia said. Her voice was steady, but tears streamed down her face. Because we're family, and you've been hurting us for years. Raymond stood up. The detective is waiting outside, but we wanted to give you one chance to make this right. How? Garrett's voice cracked. I slid a final document across the table. This is a payment plan. Every dollar you've taken from every person in this room, plus my father, will be paid back. You'll get a second job, a third if necessary. Your wages will be garnished. The court will ensure compliance. I don't have that kind of money. Then you'll work for it. For years. Maybe decades. And if I refuse? Detective Ramirez's voice came through the speakers. Then I walk in there and arrest you right now. The district attorney is very interested in this case. With the evidence Ms. Wilcox has provided, we can prosecute for fraud, forgery, and elder abuse. You're looking at 5 to 15 years in prison. Garrett looked around the table wildly, searching for an ally. He found none. This is insane. You're all insane. Sign the payment agreement, Raymond said. Or go to jail. Your choice. What about my daughter? You're going to take her father away? You haven't seen her in 4 months, Whitney said. Her mother confirmed it. You canceled every visitation, claiming work emergencies, while posting photos from casinos the same weekends. The room waited. Garrett picked up the pen with a shaking hand. He signed. The months that followed were exactly as difficult as I'd expected, and somehow worse. Garrett fought the payment plan immediately, claiming he couldn't afford the monthly installments. The court disagreed, especially after reviewing his bank statements that showed regular cash withdrawals at casinos and bars. His wages were garnished at the maximum legal amount. He hired a lawyer to contest the agreement, claiming he'd been coerced. That lasted exactly 1 court appearance, when my brother presented the detective's recording of our family meeting. The judge asked if anyone had threatened Garrett with physical harm. When the answer was no, he dismissed the motion and added the legal fees to Garrett's debt. Theo's family fractured in ways I'd anticipated, but that still hurt to witness. Patricia blamed herself. She spent weeks in therapy, working through guilt about enabling Garrett's behavior since he was a teenager. Every bad grade, every fired job, every failed relationship, she'd made excuses and covered for him with money. I thought I was being a good mother, she told me one afternoon sitting in my kitchen. I thought unconditional love meant unconditional support. It doesn't mean unconditional tolerance of abuse, I said. She nodded, but I could see the words hadn't fully landed yet. Raymond took a different approach. He cut Garrett off completely. No contact, no holidays, no family events. When people asked about his son, Raymond would say simply, I don't have a son named Garrett anymore. It was harsh. It was also the boundary Raymond needed to stop the decades-long pattern of enabling. Diane struggled the most. She'd always been close to Garrett, had defended him even when the evidence was overwhelming. She'd been the one to say things like, he's going through a hard time, and we all make mistakes. Learning that Garrett had specifically targeted her because she was emotionally reactive and easy to guilt trip, his exact words from the forum posts, broke something in her. She stopped coming to family dinners. When I reached out, she texted back, I need space from all of it. I understood. Brandon and Whitney handled it better. They'd already had their suspicions about Garrett, had already started pulling away before the confrontation. The revelation was more validation than betrayal. I'm almost relieved, Brandon admitted. I thought I was crazy for wondering if he was lying. Turns out my gut was right. My father recovered his $12,000 through the court-ordered payment plan, though it came in $200 monthly installments that would take 5 years to complete. His treatment continued, and his oncologist remained optimistic about his prognosis. But the violation of trust hit him hard. I keep thinking about that phone call, he said during one visit. How worried I was about you. How grateful I felt to have someone looking out for my daughter. He shook his head. The whole time he was just counting the money. Theo and I went to marriage counseling. The revelation about his brother's manipulation had triggered something deeper in my husband. Questions about his own judgment, his own gullibility, his own role in letting this continue for years. I thought loyalty meant never questioning him, Theo said during one session. I thought being a good brother meant always giving him the benefit of the doubt. That's what he conditioned you to think, our therapist said. Manipulators don't target stupid people. They target kind people and convince them that their kindness requires ignoring red flags. It took months, but Theo slowly rebuilt his sense of self. He started setting boundaries with other people in his life who'd been taking advantage of his generosity. He stopped lending money without clear terms. He stopped making excuses for people's bad behavior. I think I've been confusing kindness with people-pleasing my whole life, he admitted one night. And Garrett figured that out when we were kids. As for Garrett himself, he went underground for a while. He deleted all his social media accounts after screenshots from his forum posts went viral in personal finance communities. Someone had found his profiles and shared them with warnings about his scams. His face became a cautionary tale. He lost his job when his employer found out about the court judgment against him. Then he lost his apartment when he couldn't make rent with garnished wages. For a brief moment, I felt something that might have been sympathy. Then I remembered my father's voice on that phone call, apologizing for not having more money to give while fighting cancer. The sympathy evaporated. 6 months after our confrontation, Garrett moved 3 states away. His ex-wife told Diane he'd called once, asking if his daughter wanted to talk to him. She'd said no. She's old enough to understand what happened, his ex said. She knows her dad is a liar. She doesn't want anything to do with him. That might have been the worst consequence of all, losing his daughter by his own actions. Or maybe not. Because 3 weeks after moving away, Garrett tried it again. I got the call from a number I didn't recognize on a Tuesday afternoon. Hi, is this Mrs. Wilcox? Yes? This is Detective Chen from the Metro Financial Crimes Unit. I'm investigating a case that may involve your brother-in-law, Garrett Wilcox. My stomach dropped. What did he do? He's been running a crowdfunding scam. Multiple GoFundMe campaigns claiming his daughter has terminal cancer. He's raised over $70,000 from strangers in the past 4 months. I sat down hard on my couch. His daughter is healthy. I can connect you with her mother. We're already in contact. She filed the initial report. But I'm calling you because your name came up in our investigation. Garrett has been claiming you're his sister, and that you're too proud to ask for help while your daughter fights cancer. He'd learned nothing. He'd moved to a new state and immediately found new victims. But this time, he'd made a crucial mistake. He'd invoked my name to add credibility to his lies. I have no children, I said, and I'll testify to whatever you need. We'd appreciate that. We're building a federal case. Wire fraud, since the campaigns crossed state lines. Federal charges, those came with federal prison time. I called Theo immediately, then my father, then the rest of the family. The detective sent me links to the GoFundMe campaigns. They were masterfully crafted, photos of a little girl who wasn't Garrett's daughter, medical documents that were obviously forged, updates about treatments that never happened. In the comments, Garrett responded as a heartbroken father, thanking donors and providing updates on his daughter's condition. The campaigns had gained traction quickly. Local news stations in Garrett's new city had featured his story. Churches had organized fundraisers. A local business had committed to matching donations. All of it was a lie. All of it was falling apart. Detective Chen worked fast. Within 2 weeks, he'd interviewed donors, traced bank accounts, and compiled evidence that made my investigators' report look like amateur work. The FBI got involved when they discovered Garrett had set up multiple fake identities to run concurrent scams. This wasn't just about stealing from family anymore. This was systematic, calculated fraud on a scale that shocked even me. The detective called me in for a formal interview. I spent 3 hours detailing everything: the family history, the pattern of behavior, the forum posts about emotional arbitrage. I provided copies of all my previous evidence. This helps establish prior bad acts, Detective Chen explained. Shows a pattern of deception for financial gain. How much trouble is he in? Federal wire fraud carries up to 20 years per count. We're documenting at least 15 separate counts across multiple campaigns. He's also facing state-level charges for forgery and identity theft. What about the people who donated? GoFundMe has already refunded all donations. But the psychological harm? People who thought they were saving a child's life? That's something else. The detective showed me victim statements. People who donated their last $50. A grandmother who'd sent $500 she'd saved for her own medical care. A church group that had organized a bake sale to raise money. Reading those statements, I felt something shift in me. This wasn't just about family anymore. This wasn't just about teaching Garrett a lesson or setting boundaries. This was about protecting other people from becoming victims. I'll testify, I said again, whenever you need me. The arrest made national news, not because of the amount stolen, $70,000, while significant, wasn't record-breaking, but because of the particular cruelty of the lie, claiming a child had cancer, using photos of someone else's daughter, manipulating people's compassion for sick children. The story went viral. News crews showed up at Raymond and Patricia's house. Reporters called Theo's office. Someone found my Facebook profile and sent me dozens of messages asking for interviews. I declined all of them. This wasn't about publicity or revenge. It was about justice. But Diane did an interview with the local news. She sat in front of the camera, her face composed, and told the truth. My brother has been manipulating our family for over a decade, she said. We enabled it because we loved him. We made excuses because he was family. But love without accountability isn't love, it's complicity. The interview sparked a broader conversation about financial abuse within families. Support groups formed. People shared their own stories of being conned by relatives. The term emotional arbitrage became shorthand for familial manipulation. Garrett's forum posts were analyzed by psychologists and criminologists. One professor used them as a teaching tool about the psychology of con artists. The consensus? Garrett wasn't a desperate man making bad choices. He was a calculating predator who'd been honing his skills for years. The trial took 18 months to prepare. Garrett's public defender tried every angle: mental illness, addiction, childhood trauma. None of it stuck. The evidence was too overwhelming, the pattern too clear, the deliberateness too obvious. I testified on the second day of trial. The prosecutor asked me to walk through the family history of Garrett's cons. I detailed every loan, every fake emergency, every manipulation. When I got to the part about my father's cancer treatment money, several jurors looked physically ill. Garrett's attorney cross-examined me, trying to paint me as a vindictive in-law with a grudge. It didn't work. You hired a private investigator to spy on your brother-in-law, she said. That seems extreme. What seemed extreme, I replied, was watching him bleed his family dry while they made excuses for him. Someone had to stop enabling him. Someone had to care more about his victims than his feelings. The defense attorney moved on quickly. My father testified via video link, still too weak from treatment to travel. He described the phone call with Garrett, the sense of urgency and fear, the relief he'd felt at being able to help his daughter. I would have done anything to protect her, Dad said. He knew that. He used it against me. Patricia testified too, which surprised everyone. She'd initially refused, saying she couldn't testify against her own son. But after seeing the victim statements from the GoFundMe donors, particularly the elderly woman who donated her medical savings, something changed in her. She took the stand and told the truth about enabling Garrett since childhood, about making excuses, about the years of loans that were never repaid. I thought I was protecting my son, she said, her voice steady despite the tears. I didn't realize I was helping him hurt other people. Garrett's attorney didn't cross-examine her. What could she possibly ask? The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all 15 counts of wire fraud, guilty on 8 counts of identity theft, guilty on 6 counts of forgery. The judge scheduled sentencing for 6 weeks later. On sentencing day, the courtroom was packed. Victims from the GoFundMe campaigns, family members, reporters, people who'd been following the case online and wanted to see justice served. The prosecutor requested the maximum sentence, 20 years on the lead charge, plus consecutive time on other counts. She argued that Garrett's pattern of behavior, his lack of remorse, and his targeting of vulnerable populations warranted the harshest penalty. Garrett's attorney argued for leniency, claimed her client had mental health issues, substance abuse problems, a traumatic childhood. Patricia sat in the front row and didn't react. She'd spent the past year in therapy, working through the guilt of enabling behavior she now recognized as predatory. The judge listened to both arguments. Then he asked if Garrett wanted to make a statement. Garrett stood up. For a moment, I thought he might actually show remorse, might actually take responsibility. Instead, he blamed everyone else. My family set me up, he said. They coordinated against me because they were jealous of my success. The GoFundMe campaigns were legitimate. I was raising money for medical research in my daughter's name. The judge's expression didn't change, but I saw his jaw tighten. Mr. Wilcox, I've reviewed the evidence in this case extensively. The forum posts where you bragged about manipulating family members, the forged documents, the stolen photos, the fake medical records. There is no legitimate interpretation of your actions." He paused. "This court has seen many fraud cases, but the deliberate exploitation of people's compassion for sick children represents a particular kind of cruelty. You didn't just steal money, you stole hope. You made people believe they were saving a child's life, only to discover they'd been funding your gambling habit." Another pause. "You've shown no remorse, no acceptance of responsibility, no indication that you understand the harm you've caused." The judge sentenced Garrett to 14 years in federal prison, not the maximum, but close. With time already served and good behavior, he'd likely serve about 12 years. He'd be 50 years old when he got out. The courtroom was silent as marshals led Garrett away. He looked back once, scanning the crowd. His eyes landed on Patricia. She didn't look away, didn't wave, didn't cry. She just sat there, the mother who'd finally stopped enabling her son. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. I kept my head down, let Theo guide me to the car. But Diane stopped and faced the cameras. "I want to say something to anyone who's being manipulated by a family member," she said. "Love doesn't mean accepting abuse. Loyalty doesn't mean ignoring harm. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is hold someone accountable for their actions." She paused. "I wish we'd done that years ago, before he hurt so many people, before he destroyed so much trust. If you're in a similar situation, don't wait as long as we did." The clip went viral. It was shared hundreds of thousands of times, with people commenting about their own experiences with manipulative family members. Diane started a blog about recovering from familial financial abuse. It grew into a support community with thousands of members. She turned her pain into purpose, helping others recognize and escape similar situations. 3 years after Garrett's sentencing, my father went into remission. We celebrated at his favorite restaurant. My family, Theo's family, everyone who'd been through this ordeal together. Patricia brought photos of a community garden she'd started, a project she'd thrown herself into during recovery. "I needed to nurture something," she explained, "to help things grow instead of enabling things to die." Raymond was quieter than he used to be, but present in ways he hadn't been before. He'd retired early to spend more time with Patricia. They'd started volunteering at a financial literacy program, teaching people about recognizing scams and predatory behavior. Brandon had gone back to school to become a therapist, specializing in helping families navigate complex dynamics. Whitney had written a book about her experience called The Golden Child Syndrome, When Family Favorites Become Family Thieves. Theo and I were trying for a baby, something we'd postponed during the chaos of the past few years. We'd finally felt stable enough, secure enough to expand our family. "Do you think about him?" Theo asked me one night as we were falling asleep. I knew he meant Garrett. "Sometimes," I admitted. "I wonder if prison changed him, if he finally understands what he did. And I don't think it matters. He made his choices, we made ours. Both led to consequences." Theo was quiet for a moment. "I used to think family meant forgiving everything, accepting everyone no matter what. And now? Now I think family means caring enough to tell the truth, even when it hurts." 6 months later, we got a letter. From Garrett. It had been forwarded through several addresses before reaching us. Prison mail, carefully screened. I stared at the envelope for a long time before opening it. Theo stood beside me. "You don't have to read it," he said. "I know, but I opened it anyway." The letter was short. "I've had a lot of time to think about what I did, about why I did it, about who I hurt. The prison psychologist says I have NPD, narcissistic personality disorder. She says I've been manipulating people since I was a kid, learning what worked to get what I wanted. She says it doesn't excuse my behavior, but it explains some things. I've started treatment, group therapy, individual counseling. I'm not sure I even know who I am without the lies. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know I finally understand what I took from everyone. It wasn't just money. It was trust, safety, the ability to believe people when they say they need help. I destroyed that. For my whole family. For strangers who were just trying to be kind. I'm sorry. I know it doesn't fix anything, but I needed to say it. Garrett." I read it twice. Theo read over my shoulder. "What do you think?" he asked. I folded the letter carefully and put it back in the envelope. "I think he's saying what he needs to say to feel better about himself." "You don't believe him?" "I don't know. Maybe he does feel remorse. Maybe the therapy is working. Maybe 12 years in prison will fundamentally change who he is." I looked at my husband. "But it doesn't change what he did. It doesn't undo the harm. And it doesn't obligate us to respond." Theo nodded slowly. "So we don't write back?" "We don't write back." I put the letter in a drawer and closed it. Some people spend their whole lives waiting for apologies that will never come, or getting apologies that don't mean anything, or accepting apologies and pretending the harm never happened. We chose differently. We chose to move forward without needing Garrett's redemption arc to feel complete. 5 years after the trial, I got a call from Detective Chen. "I wanted to let you know," he said. "Garrett's up for early release. Good behavior, participation in rehabilitation programs. The parole board is reviewing his case." My stomach clenched. "When?" "Hearings in 3 months. Victims have a right to submit statements." I thanked him and hung up. Then I called everyone. Theo, my father, Patricia and Raymond, Diane, Brandon and Whitney, the donors from the GoFundMe campaigns that Detective Chen had kept in touch with. We all submitted statements. Mine was simple. Garrett Wilcox spent decades perfecting the art of manipulation. He learned to identify vulnerable people and exploit their compassion. He showed no remorse until facing consequences. And even then, his apologies seemed calculated to minimize his sentence. Early release would send a message that this kind of systematic predatory behavior can be mitigated with a few years of good behavior. It would tell future victims that their trauma matters less than the comfort of their abuser. Garrett didn't just commit fraud. He weaponized love, trust, and family bonds. He turned people's best impulses against them. He needs to serve his full sentence. Patricia's statement was longer. She detailed the years of enabling, the therapy she'd needed, the family relationships that were still recovering. She ended with, "As his mother, I love him. But as a member of society, I don't believe he should be released early. Some lessons take time to truly learn. The parole board denied his request. Garrett would serve his full sentence. 8 years after the trial, our daughter Evie turned 2. We'd waited a long time to have her. Years of processing trauma, building financial stability, creating a home environment free from the chaos of Garrett's manipulation. She was worth the wait. Patricia was an attentive grandmother, the kind who showed up for every birthday and milestone. But she maintained healthy boundaries, never offering to babysit overnight or take on caregiving responsibilities that might recreate old patterns. I want to be present, she explained, but I also want to make sure I'm not overstepping. I'm still learning the difference. Raymond brought books instead of toys, carefully selected stories about honesty, courage, and standing up for what's right. I want her to learn these lessons younger than we did, he said. Diane's daughter and Evie were close in age. We got together for play dates, watching our girls build block towers and paint messy pictures. Do you think about it? Diane asked me one afternoon while the kids napped. What will tell them when they're older? About their uncle? Sometimes, I admitted, but I think we tell them the truth, that people sometimes make bad choices. That love means holding each other accountable, that protecting yourself isn't selfish. And if they ask if they'll ever meet him, we'll let them decide when they're old enough to understand, but we'll make sure they know the full story first. My father visited often, now in full remission. He'd paid off his medical debt, and even started saving again. The $12,000 Garrett had stolen had been fully repaid through the court-ordered restitution, though it had taken nearly 5 years. I don't think about the money anymore, Dad said, holding Evie as she showed him a picture she'd drawn. I think about what I almost missed. If I'd let what he did make me bitter, I would have wasted these years being angry instead of present. He tickled Evie, making her squeal with laughter. This is what he tried to take from us. Not just money, joy, trust, family. He looked at me. But we didn't let him. 12 years after his sentencing, Garrett was released from federal prison. We received notification from the Victim Services Office. He was being released to a halfway house in a city 6 hours away. He was required to attend continued therapy. His wages would be garnished to continue restitution payments to remaining victims. He was prohibited from creating any social media accounts or online fundraising campaigns for 5 years. I felt nothing. No fear, no anger, no curiosity about how he'd changed or what he'd learned. He'd become a footnote in our family history, a cautionary tale, a lesson learned. 3 weeks after his release, Theo got a message on LinkedIn. It was from Garrett. I know I don't deserve a response, but I wanted to let you know I'm working at a warehouse, living in a halfway house, paying back what I owe. I'm not asking for anything. Just wanted you to know I'm trying to be different. Theo showed me the message. Do I respond? I thought about it for a long time. That's up to you, I finally said. But remember, you don't owe him a relationship just because he's trying to change. You don't owe him forgiveness just because he's served his time. You don't owe him anything. Theo stared at the message for several more minutes. Then he closed the app without responding. I used to think ignoring him made me a bad brother, he said. Now I understand it makes me a healthy adult with boundaries. He put his phone down and picked up Evie, who'd been playing with blocks in the corner. Want to show me what you built, sweetheart? And that was it. No dramatic confrontation, no tearful reunion, no forgiveness arc. Just a choice to prioritize the family we'd built over the family member who tried to destroy it. 2 years after his release, we heard through Patricia that Garrett had moved again. This time out of state, away from family, away from everyone who knew his history. He called, she told me during a family dinner. Asked if he could see photos of Evie. What did you say? I said no, that his relationship with his immediate family was his own business, but he'd lost the right to access to the next generation. I was proud of her. The Patricia from 15 years ago would have sent the photos immediately, would have tried to facilitate a relationship, would have made excuses for why everyone should give him another chance. This Patricia had learned. How did he take it? He said he understood. Asked me to tell you all he was sorry. Do you believe him? Patricia considered the question carefully. I think he's sorry he got caught, sorry he lost everything, sorry his actions had consequences. Whether he's actually sorry for the harm he caused? She shrugged. I don't know. And I've learned I don't need to know. His redemption isn't my responsibility. 5 years after his release, 17 years after the original family confrontation, I was cleaning out old files when I found the folder. All the evidence I'd collected, the investigator's report, the forum posts, the Venmo requests, the court document. I'd kept it all. A comprehensive record of everything Garrett had done. Theo found me sitting on the floor of my office, papers spread around me. What are you doing? Deciding whether to keep these or throw them away. He sat down beside me, picking up a printout of one of Garrett's forum posts. I can't believe this was our life, he said. It feels like it happened to different people. In a way, it did. We were different now, stronger, more cautious about who we trusted, but also more confident in our ability to recognize manipulation. We'd built a family rooted in honesty and accountability, instead of enabling and excuses. So do we keep it? Theo asked. I gathered the papers into a neat stack. Yes, but not for us. I put them in a storage box, labeled and dated. For Evie, when she's old enough, so she knows the whole story. So she understands why we made the choices we made. Theo nodded. And so she knows that protecting yourself isn't selfish. Exactly. 20 years after that first family confrontation, Evie was 10 years old enough to notice when her grandmother got quiet at certain family gatherings, old enough to wonder why she only had cousins on one side of the family, old enough to ask why Daddy never talked about his brother. We'd always planned to tell her the truth eventually, but planning and doing are different things. Mom, she asked one evening after dinner. Brandon's kids were talking about their Uncle Garrett. Who's that? Theo and I exchanged looks. That's my brother, Theo said, but we don't see him anymore. Why not? It's complicated. I'm 10. I understand complicated. She was right. She'd proven herself wise beyond her years, empathetic but with strong boundaries, generous but not gullible. We'd done everything we could to raise her with the awareness we'd lacked, so we told her. Not all of it. Not the most graphic details. But the essential truth, Uncle Garrett had stolen from the family, had lied repeatedly, had manipulated people for money, had hurt people we loved, including her grandfather. Evie listened carefully, processing. Did he go to jail? Yes. Is he still there? No, he got out a few years ago. Has he said sorry? He wrote a letter once, but we're not sure if he meant it. Evie thought about this. Is that why Grandma Patricia cries sometimes? Even when she says she's okay? I was constantly amazed by my daughter's perceptiveness. Yes, sweetheart, she feels sad about what happened, about not seeing it sooner, about the people who got hurt. But it wasn't her fault. No, it wasn't. But sometimes we feel responsible for people we love, even when we shouldn't. Evie was quiet for a long time. Will I ever meet him? Theo leaned forward. Maybe someday, when you're older, if you want to. But only if he's proven he's changed, and only if you're comfortable with it. You don't have to have a relationship with someone just because they're family. Good, Evie said firmly, because I don't think I want to meet someone who hurt Grandpa and made Grandma cry. She went back to her homework. The conversation apparently settled in her mind. Theo and I looked at each other with a mixture of pride and relief. We'd raised a child who understood that family wasn't just about blood. It was about trust, respect, and accountability. 25 years after that first confrontation, Theo got another message. This time it was from a number he didn't recognize. This is Garrett. I know I don't have the right to reach out, but I wanted you to know that Mom had a stroke. She's in St. Michael's Hospital, room 412. I thought you'd want to know. Theo stared at the message, his face pale. We called Raymond immediately. It was true. Patricia had collapsed at the community garden. She was stable but unable to speak clearly. The doctors were running tests. We drove to the hospital immediately. Garrett was there. He looked older than I expected. Gray at the temples, lines around his eyes, the swagger completely gone. He wore a warehouse uniform and carried a battered backpack. He saw us and stood up immediately. Theo, I'm sorry, I didn't know if you'd... How is she? Theo's voice was flat, controlled, stable. Dad's with her now. They're running more tests. Awkward silence. I'm going to go in, Theo said, not looking at his brother. Can I? No. Theo walked into Patricia's room and closed the door. I was left standing in the hallway with Garrett. He shifted uncomfortably. You look good. Happy. I didn't respond. I heard you have a daughter now. That's great. Still nothing from me. Look, I know I don't deserve to be here, but she's my mom. When the hospital called, I couldn't just... You don't get to do this. I interrupted. Do what? Pretend like enough time has passed that we can just have a normal conversation, like what you did was a misunderstanding instead of a systematic betrayal. Garrett's shoulders slumped. I've been in therapy for 17 years. I've paid back nearly half the restitution. I work 60-hour weeks to afford my rent and the court payments. I haven't gambled in 12 years. I'm trying. Good. Keep trying. But don't expect us to celebrate your recovery or welcome you back into the family you tried to destroy. I'm not asking for... Aren't you? Isn't that why you're here? Hoping Patricia's stroke will be the thing that brings us all back together? The crisis that forces forgiveness? Garrett's eyes filled with tears. I just want to see my mom, then see your mom, but leave us alone. Raymond emerged from Patricia's room, looking exhausted. She's asking for both of you, he said to Garrett and Theo, but one at a time. Garrett first. Garrett walked into the room, closing the door softly behind him. Raymond sat down heavily in one of the waiting room chairs. I didn't know he'd be here, he said. Patricia had him listed as emergency contact. I didn't realize. It's okay, is it? Raymond looked at me with tired eyes. After all this time, all this work to move forward, here he is again, and Patricia wants to see him. She has the right to make that choice, even if it hurts the rest of us. I sat down beside him. Patricia has been working on her boundaries for 17 years. If she wants to see her son, that's her decision. But it doesn't mean we have to rebuild relationships we chose to end. Raymond nodded slowly. 20 minutes later, Garrett emerged from Patricia's room. His eyes were red. He didn't look at any of us as he walked past and out of the hospital. Theo went in next. I waited with Raymond, neither of us speaking. When Theo came out, his face was unreadable. She wants to see you, he said to his father. After Raymond went in, I asked, what did she say? She told me she loves me, that she's proud of the family we've built, that she understands why we cut Garrett off, and she asked if I could find it in myself to forgive him eventually. Said he's been trying hard to change, that maybe after she's gone we could... Theo's voice cracked. I told her I'd think about it, but we both knew I was lying to make her feel better. I put my arms around my husband. You don't have to forgive him. Not for her. Not for anyone. I know. But I hate that this is still affecting us. Still taking up space in our lives. It's been 25 years and he's still causing pain. That's not on you, that's on him. Patricia recovered from her stroke, though she needed speech therapy and had limited use of her right arm. She moved in with Raymond, who retired fully to care for her. Garrett visited occasionally. We knew because Patricia would mention it carefully, gauging our reactions. He brings groceries, she said once. Helps your father with yard work. That's good, I said, non-committal. He asks about you sometimes. About Evie. I'm sure he does. Patricia studied my face. You're never going to forgive him, are you? Probably not. And I think that's okay. She nodded slowly. I used to think forgiveness was mandatory, that holding on to anger was toxic. But my therapist helped me understand. Forgiveness is a choice. And choosing not to forgive someone who hurt you isn't the same as being consumed by bitterness. Exactly. I forgave him because I needed to for my own peace. But I don't expect anyone else to. And I never invite him when I know you'll be here. He understands that boundary. Thank you for respecting that. Of course. Patricia reached over and squeezed my hand with her good one. You saved this family. By refusing to enable him. By gathering evidence. By forcing us to see the truth. I think about that a lot. 30 years after that first confrontation, Evie graduated from college with a degree in forensic accounting. I want to catch people like Uncle Garrett, she'd told us when declaring her major. I want to help families understand when someone is stealing from them. She'd turned family trauma into purpose. I couldn't have been more proud. At her graduation party, surrounded by friends and family, someone asked her what inspired her career choice. My parents taught me that protecting yourself isn't selfish, she said, that accountability is an act of love, that sometimes the kindest thing you can do is refuse to enable someone's destructive behavior. She looked at Theo and me. They showed me what it looks like to choose truth over comfort. And that's what I want to do professionally, help other people make those hard choices. Later, as we were cleaning up, Raymond pulled me aside. Garrett called yesterday, he said. He wanted to come to Evie's party, bring a gift, meet her. What did you say? I said that wasn't my decision to make, that he'd have to ask you and Theo directly. Did he? No. He said he understood, that he'd already taken enough from your family. I was surprised to feel a small flicker of something that might have been respect. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, but acknowledgement that maybe, after 30 years, he was finally starting to understand the depth of what he'd done. 35 years after that first confrontation, Theo and I celebrated our 40th wedding anniversary. 4 decades of marriage, 3.5 decades of being free from Garrett's manipulation. We'd built a good life, raised a remarkable daughter, maintained relationships with family members who'd also chosen healing over enabling. Patricia had passed away 2 years earlier, peacefully in her sleep. Garrett had been at the funeral standing in the back. He hadn't approached us, hadn't tried to speak to Theo. He'd simply paid his respects and left. Raymond had died 6 months later, finally succumbing to the heart condition he'd been managing for years. At his funeral, Garrett tried to approach Theo. I know this isn't the time, he started, but Dad would have wanted. Don't, Theo said. Don't tell me what our father would have wanted. You lost that right 3 decades ago. Garrett nodded and walked away. It was the last time we saw him. 40 years after that first confrontation, I was sitting in my home office when I got an email from an unfamiliar address. Subject line, you probably don't remember me. I opened it cautiously. Dear Mrs. Wilcox, my name is Olivia. You don't know me, but 40 years ago, you saved my grandmother from being scammed by your brother-in-law. She was the elderly woman who donated her medical savings to his fake GoFundMe campaign. I was 10 years old when it happened. I remember my grandmother crying when she found out it was fake, but I also remember her relief when GoFundMe refunded her money. She said an investigator named something Wilcox had reported it. My grandmother passed away last year at 94. Before she died, she told me she'd always wanted to thank you, that you could have just gotten your own money back and ignored everyone else he'd scammed, but you didn't. So I'm thanking you on her behalf, and I'm letting you know that the $500 she got refunded allowed her to have surgery she'd been putting off. That surgery gave her 15 more years of life, 15 more years of birthday parties and holidays, and being present for her family. She got to meet her great-great-grandchildren because of you. Thank you. Olivia Chen. I read the email 3 times. Then I called Theo and read it to him. When I finished, there was silence on the line. Then, we did the right thing. I know. It was worth it. All of it. The confrontation, the trial, the years of estrangement. It was worth it. Yes. 45 years after that first confrontation, Evie called me with news. Mom, you need to see this. She sent a link to a news article. Former con artist creates support program for addiction recovery. The article featured an interview with Garrett. He was 70 years old now, no longer the charming manipulator from my memories. He looked weathered, humbled, completely different. The program he'd created helped people with gambling addiction navigate financial recovery. It provided free counseling, debt management assistance, and accountability support. I spent 30 years destroying lives, Garrett said in the interview. I'm spending whatever time I have left trying to help people avoid the mistakes I made. The article detailed his work. Hundreds of families helped, thousands of dollars in restitution paid, a network of support groups across 3 states. What do you think? Evie asked. I think he's doing good work. Do you want to reach out? Tell him you saw it? No. Why not? Because his redemption isn't about me. It's about the people he's helping now. And because after 45 years, I've finally reached a place where I don't think about him at all. Really? You don't think about him? I paused, considering. Maybe occasionally, when I see news stories about financial abuse, when I teach your kids about healthy boundaries. But he's not a central character in my life anymore. He's just someone who used to be in it. That seems healthy. It is. And that's the ending I wanted. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, just indifference. The ability to see his name and feel nothing. 50 years after that first confrontation, I was 80 years old. Theo and I sat on our porch watching our grandchildren play in the yard. Evie's twins, now teenagers themselves, were teaching the younger kids how to climb trees. Do you ever think about that night? Theo asked. When you showed me all the evidence? Which part? The part where you decided to do something instead of just accepting it. Most people would have just paid him the $15,000 to avoid the conflict, but the conflict was already there. I just made it visible. Theo squeezed my hand. You changed our whole family's trajectory. Mine, my parents, Diane's, everyone's. We changed it. Together. No, Theo said firmly. You changed it. I was ready to hand over the money. I would have kept enabling him for decades more. You're the one who said enough. I watched our grandchildren play, thinking about the legacy we'd built. Not just in the family we'd created, but in the boundaries we'd modeled, the accountability we'd demanded, the truth we'd refused to ignore. I'm glad I did, I said finally, even knowing how hard it would be. I'm glad I said no. 52 years after that first confrontation, Theo passed away peacefully in his sleep. At his funeral, someone I didn't recognize approached me. Mrs. Wilcox? I nodded. I'm Garrett's daughter. I know we've never met. I know the history, but I wanted to tell you something. She pulled out a letter, worn from years of handling. My dad wrote this before he died last year. He asked me to give it to Uncle Theo if I ever had the chance. He's gone now, but I thought you should have it. I took the letter but didn't open it. Thank you. After she left, Evie found me sitting alone. What's that? A letter from Garrett. He died last year, apparently. Are you going to read it? I looked at the envelope. After everything, 52 years of boundaries and healing and moving forward, did I want to know what Garrett had to say? Yes, I decided. But not today. Today is about your father. About celebrating his life. About remembering the man he became after choosing accountability over enabling. When will you read it? Maybe never. Or Or maybe someday when I'm curious. But either way, it doesn't matter. It doesn't change anything. I put the letter in my purse and went back to celebrating my husband's life. The man who'd learned that love meant boundaries, that family meant accountability, that sometimes the kindest thing you can do is refuse to accept someone's worst behavior. We'd built a good life together. A honest life. A life where our children and grandchildren knew that protecting yourself wasn't selfish, and that saying no was sometimes the most loving response. And in the end, that was enough. 3 months after Theo's funeral, I finally opened Garrett's letter. It was short. Theo, I don't know if you'll ever read this. I don't know if you should, but I'm dying, and there are things I need to say. You were right. About everything. I was a parasite. A liar. Someone who saw love as weakness to exploit instead of strength to honor. It took me 20 years to understand what I'd done. Another 20 to rebuild a life that wasn't based on manipulation. And these final years to realize I wasted decades of my life hurting people instead of helping them. I can't undo any of it. Can't give back the years. Can't restore the trust. Can't repair the relationships I destroyed. But I want you to know, your wife saved my life by stopping me. If she hadn't gathered that evidence, if you hadn't confronted me, I would have kept going until I ended up dead or in prison permanently. Instead, I got a chance to change. To become someone who helps instead of hurts. To create something good out of all that destruction. I know it's too late for us. I know I'll never be your brother again. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But I wanted you to know that your boundary, your refusal to enable me, gave me the chance to finally become someone worth respecting. Thank you for that. Even if you never wanted to speak to me again, thank you. Gee, I read it twice. Then I put it back in the envelope and filed it away with all the other documents from that era. Not because it changed anything, not because it earned forgiveness retroactively, but because it confirmed what I'd always known. Setting boundaries wasn't cruel. It was necessary. Not just for us, but for Garrett too. By refusing to enable his destruction, we'd given him space to either change or face consequences. He'd gotten both. I'm 85 years old now. My daughter is a renowned forensic accountant who's helped hundreds of families. My grandchildren are grown, thriving, equipped with the tools to recognize and reject manipulation. Sometimes I think about that night 55 years ago, when Theo asked me to loan his brother money and I said no. When I showed him evidence that shattered his world, but ultimately saved our family. Would I make the same choice knowing everything that would follow? The years of conflict, the trial, the estrangement, the complicated grief when Garrett died. Yes. 1,000 times yes. Because saying no to enabling someone's destruction is an act of love. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to participate in someone's self-destruction. We taught our daughter that, she's teaching her children that, and someday, they'll teach their children that. That's the real legacy, not the money recovered or the justice served or the boundaries maintained. The legacy is teaching the next generation that they don't have to sacrifice themselves on the altar of family loyalty, that protecting yourself isn't selfish, that love without accountability isn't love, it's complicity. I'm at peace with all of it. The confrontation, the consequences, the choice to never reconcile. Because in the end, we didn't just protect ourselves from Garrett, we protected everyone who came after us from making the same mistakes. And that was worth everything. My in-laws uninvited me from Christmas because I was too much drama. Then they called crying when my husband refused to come without me. The email arrived December 10th. Catalina, we've decided it's best if this year's celebration remains immediate family only. I'd been married to Dominic for 3 years. Was I not immediate family? When I showed him, Dom's jaw clenched. What the hell is this? I knew exactly what it was. His mother, Lorraine, had never forgiven me for not being Priya. Priya, the ex-girlfriend who spoke fluent Italian and whose family owned vineyards in Tuscany. I was a public school teacher from Queens. Last Thanksgiving, I'd committed my greatest sin. I corrected Lorraine when she claimed vaccines caused autism. I'm a science teacher. I couldn't just sit there while she spread misinformation. The table went silent. Her face turned crimson. Well, I'm just sharing what I've read. From where? I'd asked. Because every legitimate medical organization disagrees. Since then, every gathering became a minefield. When I announced my pregnancy in October, her first response was, I hope you'll still work. Dominic's father expects grandchildren to be properly raised. The Christmas disinvite was the final move. I told Dom to go without me. I'm not playing her games, he called his mother that night. If Kat's not welcome, I'm not coming. Silence. Dominic, don't be ridiculous. I'm spending Christmas with my wife and our baby. You can join us or not. He hung up. For 2 weeks, nothing. Then Christmas Eve arrived. We were making dinner when his phone rang. His father. Your mother's in the hospital. She collapsed. You need to come now. We drove 2 hours in silence. His dad stood in the waiting room looking 10 years older. They think it's her heart. Lorraine was in ICU, tubes everywhere. When she saw Dom, she started crying. When she saw me, her face hardened. The doctor pulled us aside. She's stable, but she'll need surgery. We found a mass near her heart. My medical knowledge kicked in. What kind of mass? What are the imaging results showing? The doctor looked surprised. Are you medical? Science teacher. Biology degree. He explained the technical details. I asked about treatment options, survival rates, surgical risks. Dom's dad just stared, lost. Lorraine had always handled medical stuff. Over the next week, I became the translator between doctors and family. I researched surgeons, decoded insurance paperwork, organized medication schedules. Dom's dad would call me with questions. Lorraine never said thank you. 3 days before her surgery, she asked to speak to me alone. I found something, she said quietly. In your medical research. Something you missed. My stomach dropped. What? She pulled out her phone with shaking hands. A screenshot from my computer at their house from when I'd researched her condition on their Wi-Fi. My search history. But it wasn't just about her heart condition. There were searches about inheritance law, estate planning. What happens to property when someone dies in estate? Searches I'd never made. I didn't save it, she whispered. I know what you're after. I always knew you weren't right for my son. The door opened. Dom walked in. Mom, what's going on? Lorraine pressed the call button. 2 security guards appeared. This woman is not family. I want her removed. And I'm calling my lawyer. Check the security footage from the medication room from last night. My blood turned to ice. Last night, I'd been alone in that room organizing her prescriptions. The night nurse had asked me to help. There were cameras. What had I actually done on those cameras? Or more importantly, what would it look like I'd done? Dom grabbed my arm. Kat didn't do anything. Then she won't mind if we review the footage, Lorraine said, her voice stronger now. With the police present. The security guards moved closer. One put his hand on my shoulder. Ma'am, we need you to come with us. Dominic, call our lawyer, I said. My voice came out steadier than I felt. Don't say anything to anyone until she gets here. They escorted me to a small room near the hospital security office. Through the window, I could see Dom arguing with his mother. His father stood between them, hands raised. A police officer arrived 20 minutes later. Detective Ramirez, according to his badge. He sat across from me with a tablet. Mrs. Castellano, do you know why you're here? My mother-in-law is having some kind of episode. She's confused because of her medication. Is that why you were in the medication room last night? To confuse her further? I was organizing her prescriptions at the nurse's request. Everything I did was documented. He tapped the tablet. Let's watch the footage together. The video was grainy but clear enough. Timestamp, 11:47 p.m. I entered the medication room with the night nurse, Bethany. She pointed to Lorraine's prescriptions, explained which ones needed to be sorted. Then her pager went off. She left. I was alone for exactly 4 minutes and 32 seconds. The camera showed me counting pills, checking labels, using my phone. At one point, I picked up a medication bottle, examined it, then set it down. I repeated this with 3 different bottles. Then I left. Looks pretty innocent, I said. Detective Ramirez zoomed in on my phone. What were you doing on your device? Checking drug interactions. Lorraine is on 12 different medications. I wanted to make sure nothing was contraindicated. Or you were looking up which combination would cause the most damage. My lawyer walked in at that exact moment. Thank God. Miriam Torres was 5 feet tall and terrifying. My client isn't answering any more questions. Do you have evidence of a crime? Or are we done here? Ramirez leaned back. Mrs. Castellano's mother-in-law has accused her of tampering with her medications. We have footage of her alone with those medications. That's enough for an investigation. Footage of her doing exactly what a nurse asked her to do, Miriam said. Unless you have evidence she actually altered any medication, my client is leaving. Not yet. We need to test the medications. Then test them. We'll wait. 4 hours later, the results came back. Every medication was exactly as prescribed. No tampering, no alterations, nothing. Detective Ramirez looked annoyed. You're free to go. Dom was waiting outside with his father. Lorraine had been sedated after becoming hysterical when the police told her the medications were fine. Kat, I'm so sorry, Dom said, pulling me close. His father wouldn't look at me. We should go home, I said. No. Dom's voice was hard. We need to talk about what just happened. We sat in the cafeteria. Dom's father ordered coffee he didn't drink. Dom held my hand so tight it hurt. Dad, Mom just tried to have my pregnant wife arrested. For nothing. She's not thinking clearly. The mass. The stress. This isn't about the mass. She's been like this since the day I brought Kat home. You know it. I know it. Everyone knows it. His father's hand shook around his coffee cup. Your mother has always been protective. Protective? I finally spoke. She accused me of attempted murder. She's scared. She doesn't know how to handle. Handle what? That Dominic married someone she didn't choose? That I'm not Priya? Silence. Your mother loved Priya, his father said quietly. When you two broke up, it devastated her. She'd already planned the wedding in her head. I was 23, Dom said. Priya and I dated for 6 months. Mom loved her because Priya let Mom control everything. What she wore, what she ate, what she said. Kat's her own person. That's what Mom can't stand. His father finally looked at me. I know my wife is difficult, but she's sick. Can't you just forgive this? Forgive being accused of attempted murder? Forgive being escorted out by security? Forgive having police interrogate me while I'm 3 months pregnant? It's complicated. No, I said. It's actually very simple. Your wife tried to destroy my life tonight because she doesn't like that I have a spine. Dom stood up. We're leaving. When Mom's surgery is over, call me with an update. But Kat and I are done being your emotional punching bags. We walked out. In the parking lot, I finally broke down. Dom held me while I sobbed against his chest. What if they'd found something? I whispered. What if she'd done something to those medications herself and blamed me? He went very still. What? Those searches on my computer. I never made them. Someone else did, using my laptop. Mom had access to our house last month when we were at work. She has our spare key. We stared at each other. She was setting you up, Dom said slowly. The whole time. But why would she risk her own health? She wouldn't have to. She could have just planted the searches, then claimed you were researching how to kill her. The medication thing tonight was probably just opportunity. When it happened, she seized it. I felt sick. Your mother tried to frame me for attempted murder. We need proof. How? The police already said the medications were fine. Dom pulled out his phone. But they didn't check our house. We drove home in silence. It was 3 a.m. when we pulled into our driveway. Dom's hands were white-knuckled on the steering wheel. We're going to check your laptop. Every file, every search, everything. Inside, I booted up my computer. Dom stood behind me as I pulled up my browser history. The searches were there, dated 3 weeks ago. November 15th, the day Lorraine had come over to drop off Thanksgiving decorations while we were both at work. She'd used my laptop for 47 minutes. Estate law, inheritance rights, life insurance beneficiaries, how to prove mental incompetence, poison that mimics heart conditions. Jesus Christ, Dom breathed. But there was more. She'd accessed my email, read messages between me and my doctor about the pregnancy, downloaded my bank statements, screenshotted texts between me and Dom. Then she'd gone into my documents folder. She'd created a new folder labeled Plans. Inside were Word documents that I'd never created. Dominic Life Insurance. Docs. Inheritance. Timeline.docs. After Lorraine dies.docs. I opened the first one with shaking hands. It was a detailed breakdown of Dom's life insurance policy, beneficiaries, payout amounts, what I would receive if he died before the baby was born versus after. Information I'd never looked up. Whoever wrote this knew details only someone with access to Dom's personal files would know. Details from documents he kept at his parents' house. She wrote these on your computer, Dom said. Made it look like you were planning something. The second document was worse. It outlined Lorraine's entire estate. Property values, stock portfolios, what Dom would inherit as the only child. What would happen if Dom died before Lorraine? Then there was a note at the bottom. If Dom dies while Lorraine is incapacitated, Kat inherits everything through the baby. Full control. This is insane, I whispered. She's creating a narrative where I want both of you dead. The third document was dated today, December 24th. It was a will. A fake will, supposedly written by Lorraine, leaving everything to me directly, cutting Dom out entirely. She's going to claim you forced her to write this, Dom said. While she was sick and vulnerable, that's why she needed the medication tampering angle, to show you had access and opportunity. I felt dizzy. How deep does this go? Dom sat down hard. I need to call my dad. Your dad covered for her tonight. He didn't know. He couldn't have. If he saw this, are you sure? Because he was pretty quick to ask me to forgive her. Dom looked at me, really looked at me. You think he's in on it? I think your family has a lot of money. I think your mother never wanted you to marry me, and I think this started way before tonight. I pulled up my email again, went back further. November 1st, the day after I'd announced my pregnancy. Someone had sent an anonymous email to my school district, claiming I was having an inappropriate relationship with a student, with screenshots of text messages that looked like they were from my phone, fake messages, but realistic enough that the school had launched an investigation. I'd had to hire a lawyer, meet with the superintendent, prove the messages were fabricated. It had cost me $8,000 and nearly my job. The investigation had closed last week. Insufficient evidence. I'd thought it was a crazy parent, someone angry about a grade. Look at this, I showed Dom. He read in silence. The timing. The day after I announced the pregnancy, she tried to get you fired. If I lost my job, no income, no health insurance. Maybe you'd leave me, or maybe I'd leave you to spare you the burden. Dom's face was white. We need to go to the police. With what? Circumstantial evidence? Files on my own computer that I could have created? She'll say I planted everything to frame her. Then what do we do? I thought about Lorraine in that hospital bed. Tubes everywhere. About to have surgery. Vulnerable. And I thought about what she'd tried to do to me. We let her have the surgery, I said slowly. We act like nothing happened, like we believe it was all a misunderstanding because of her medication. Kat, she tried to destroy your life. I know. And we're going to let her think she failed because we're stupid, that we don't suspect anything. Why? Because scared animals are dangerous, but comfortable ones get lazy. Dom stared at me. What are you planning? I'm going to save your mother's life. I'm going to be the perfect daughter-in-law. Helpful, forgiving, supportive. And then I'm going to make sure she never comes near me, you, or our baby ever again, legally. The surgery was scheduled for December 28th. We showed up the morning of, carrying flowers and magazines. Lorraine looked surprised to see me. Catalina, I thought after last night, water under the bridge, I said sweetly. You're not yourself. The medication, the stress. I understand. She looked suspicious. You're not angry? I'm worried about you. Dom's worried. We just want you to get better. Her face did something complicated. Almost guilty. Almost relieved. The surgery took 6 hours. Dom's father paced. Dom sat rigid. I made phone calls to family members with updates, organized food for the waiting room, kept track of which doctors had spoken to us, modeled daughter-in-law behavior. When Lorraine came out of recovery, the surgeon was smiling. Everything went perfectly. We got the entire mass. She should make a full recovery. Dom's father cried. Dom hugged him. I stood back, appropriately emotional but not intrusive. Lorraine woke up the next morning. I was sitting beside her bed. You're here, she croaked. Where else would I be? Tears slid down her face. After what I did? You were scared, sick, not thinking clearly. I get it. I'm so sorry, Catalina. She wasn't. I could see it in her eyes. She was sorry she'd failed. But I smiled like I believed her. Over the next week, I became indispensable. I coordinated her care, managed her medications, communicated with doctors. Dom's father started calling me first with questions. Lorraine watched me with calculating eyes. On January 3rd, she came home. Dom's father had converted the downstairs den into a bedroom for her recovery. We'd hired a daytime nurse, but I came by every evening to help. You're so good to us, Dom's father said one night. I was wrong about you, Catalina. You're exactly what this family needs. Lorraine smiled tightly from her chair. That night, I installed a small camera in their living room, just a nanny cam, I told Dom's father. So Lorraine could call us if she needed help overnight, and we could see if she'd fallen. He thought it was thoughtful. The camera also covered the home office where Lorraine's computer was. I watched her, every night, from my own computer. On January 8th, she moved, slowly, carefully, into the office. She sat at her computer for 2 hours. The angle wasn't good enough to see the screen, but I could see her hands typing, her face determined. The next morning, I got a call from my OB's office. Mrs. Castellano, we've received a complaint. Someone claiming to be a family member says you're using drugs while pregnant. We need you to come in for testing. My heart stopped. I'm not using anything. It's protocol. We have to investigate. The test came back clean, obviously, but it went in my medical file. A red flag. 2 days later, Child Protective Services called. We've received a report about potential prenatal substance abuse. From who? We can't disclose that. We need to schedule a home visit. The caseworker was kind but thorough. She inspected our home, interviewed us separately, reviewed our finances and medical records. Everything looks fine, she said finally, but we have to follow up on every report. If we receive another one, it triggers a more intensive investigation. After she left, I sat on the floor and cried. Dom held me. She's not stopping. No, she's escalating. What's the next step? We make her feel safe. Then we document everything. Build a case so airtight that a judge has no choice but to give us a restraining order. That could take months. Then we have months of hell ahead of us. I was wrong. It took 3 months. 3 months of reports to CPS. 3 months of anonymous calls to my school claiming I was mentally unstable. 3 months of fabricated evidence showing up in weird places. But we documented everything. Every call, every visit, every complaint. Our lawyer built a timeline, and I kept watching that camera. On March 15th, I caught it. Lorraine was back to full health now, moving normally. No more weakness or medication fog. She sat at her computer, and this time I'd repositioned the camera. I could see the screen. She was creating a Facebook profile. Fake name, fake photos. She was joining parenting groups, local community forums. Then she started posting about her terrible daughter-in-law who was pregnant and using drugs, who had tried to poison her during her hospital stay, who was mentally unstable and violent. She posted in groups for our neighborhood, for Dom's colleagues, for my school district, with details that could only have come from someone who knew us. I recorded everything. On March 20th, I filed for a restraining order. Miriam submitted 400 pages of documentation, every fake report, every anonymous call, every social media post traced back to Lorraine's IP address, the laptop searches she'd made on my computer, the fake documents she'd created, the medication room accusation, and the video of her creating those Facebook posts, clearly healthy and clear-headed, deliberately trying to destroy my reputation. The judge was a woman in her 60s who'd clearly seen it all. She read through everything in silence while Lorraine and her lawyer sat confidently. Then she looked up. Mrs. Castellano, do you deny making these social media posts? Lorraine's lawyer jumped in. Your Honor, my client was recovering from major surgery. She wasn't in her right mind. These posts are dated last week. Her surgeon's report shows full recovery as of February 28th. Silence. Mrs. Castellano, you've conducted a systematic campaign of harassment against your daughter-in-law. You've filed false reports with Child Protective Services, contacted her employer with baseless accusations, created fraudulent documents to frame her for crimes, and spread defamatory statements across social media. Lorraine's face was red. She's trying to steal my son, turn him against his family. She's after our money. Your son is a grown man capable of choosing his own wife, and there's no evidence Mrs. Catalina Castellano has done anything except help care for you after your surgery. The judge looked at me. You're 6 months pregnant? Yes, Your Honor. And you've maintained your job, your marriage, and your composure while being systematically harassed for 5 months? I didn't have much choice. She almost smiled. No, I suppose you didn't. Then she turned back to Lorraine. I'm granting the restraining order. You're to have no contact with Catalina Castellano. No physical contact, no phone calls, no emails, no social media posts. You may not go within 500 feet of her home or workplace. What about Dominic? Lorraine's voice cracked. He's my son. That's between you and your son. But if you want to see him, it can't be anywhere near his wife. Lorraine started crying. Real tears this time. This is what she wanted, to separate me from my child. No, the judge said quietly. This is what you did. You separated yourself. The order was effective immediately. We walked out of the courthouse into spring sunshine. Dom was shaking. I can't believe that just happened. Believe it. Your mom is abusive, has been your whole life. You just couldn't see it because you were used to it. He was quiet for a long time. Will you hate me if I still love her? No, she's your mother, but I won't let her near our daughter. I know. We got in the car. Dom drove us home, our real home, just the two of us. His father called that night. Dominic, your mother is devastated. This is tearing the family apart. The family was torn apart the day she tried to frame Kat for attempted murder. She was sick. She was healthy when she filed false reports with CPS, when she posted lies about Kat on Facebook, when she called her school claiming Kat was having sex with students. Silence. Your father knew about that last one, I called out. His email is on the complaint filed with the school district. More silence. Dad, did you help her? I didn't. She was so upset. She said you were making a mistake, that this girl was dangerous. I thought I was protecting you by helping her destroy an innocent woman, my wife, the mother of your grandchild. We didn't think it would go this far. No, you just thought Kat would break, that she'd leave me to escape the harassment, that you could get rid of her without any consequences. Dominic, don't call me again unless you're ready to apologize to Kat. A real apology, not an excuse. He hung up. His father never called back. Our daughter Isabel was born June 14th, 7 pounds, 3 ounces. Perfect. Lorraine tried to visit the hospital. Security escorted her out. The restraining order was very clear. She tried to send gifts. We returned them. She created new social media accounts to get around the restraining order. Miriam got it extended and added those violations to Lorraine's record. Dom went to therapy. Worked through 30 years of manipulation and control he'd thought was love. She used to tell me I was her special boy, he said one session, that I'd never leave her because we understood each other. That's called emotional incest, the therapist said gently. Dom cried in my arms that night, but he got better, stronger, started setting boundaries with other family members who tried to guilt him into reconciling. His father showed up at our house when Isabel was 2 months old. I want to meet my granddaughter. And I want an apology to my wife, Dom said. His father looked at me. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I should have protected you instead of helping Lorraine hurt you. Why didn't you? I asked. Because I've been protecting her my whole marriage. making excuses for her behavior, cleaning up her messes. I thought that's what you do for family. No, I said. What you do for family is hold them accountable, help them be better, love them enough to say no. He nodded slowly. Can I meet Isabel? Dom looked at me. I nodded. His father held our daughter with shaking hands. Tears rolled down his face. She's beautiful. She has Lorraine's eyes. Yeah, Dom said. Hopefully not her personality. His father laughed. It sounded painful. No, God, please no. You can visit, I said. Once a week. Here. In our home. Under supervision. If you talk to Lorraine about us or Isabel, that privilege ends. I understand. And if you ever help her harass us again, you'll never see Isabel again. Ever. I won't. I swear. He kept that promise. Came every Saturday morning, brought bagels and coffee, played with Isabel, never mentioned Lorraine, but sometimes I'd catch him staring at Isabel with this heartbroken expression. You miss her? I said once. My granddaughter? Your wife. He was quiet. I miss who I thought she was, but that person never existed. Just the version she performed when she got what she wanted. Have you thought about divorce? Every day. But we've been married 38 years. I don't know who I am without her. You're Isabel's grandfather. You're Dominic's father. You're a man who can choose to break a pattern. He looked at me. Like you did. I didn't have a choice. She was trying to destroy my life, but you could have given up, left Dominic, protected yourself. Instead, you fought. I fought because I loved Dom. Because I knew Isabel deserved better than a grandmother who weaponizes family. You're stronger than me. No, I just had less to lose. Isabel turned 1. We had a party in our backyard. Just close friends, my family, and Dom's father. Lorraine sent a card. Inside was a check for $10,000 and a note. For my granddaughter. I'm sorry for everything. Please let me see her. I've changed. Dom tore up the check. She hasn't changed. She just wants access. I know. But part of me wonders if we're being cruel. Keeping Isabel from her. I took his face in my hands. Your mother tried to have me arrested while I was pregnant, filed false reports claiming I was on drugs, told people I was a pedophile. She didn't stop because she felt guilty. She stopped because a judge forced her to. I know. If we let her in, even once, she'll use it. Take photos, create a narrative, claim we're letting her back into Isabel's life. Then when we cut her off again, she'll use those photos to claim parental alienation. How do you know that? Because that's what she did before. Every act of kindness we showed her, she weaponized. Your mother doesn't want a relationship with Isabel. She wants control over us. Dom crumpled the card. You're right. I'm sorry, I'm right. Me too. Isabel started talking. Her first word was Dada. Her second was Mama. Her third was Papa, for Dom's father. He sobbed when he heard it. She knows I'm her grandfather. Of course she does. You're here every week. Lorraine will never know this. She'll never hear Isabel call her anything. That's the consequence of her choices. It's so unfair to her. She made it unfair. To herself. When Isabel was 18 months old, Lorraine violated the restraining order. She showed up at my school. Told the security guard she was my mother-in-law, here to drop off lunch. The guard, new and not familiar with our situation, let her in. She walked into my classroom during lunch. I was alone, grading papers. Catalina. I looked up, felt my blood go cold. You need to leave. Now. Before I call security. Please, just 5 minutes. I need to explain. You're violating a court order. I know, I don't care. I need you to understand that I'm sorry. Really sorry. Not the sorry I said before. This is real. She looked terrible. Thinner. Gray. Older than her 62 years. What do you want, Lorraine? I want to meet my granddaughter. No, please, I'm begging you. I know I was horrible. I know I can never take back what I did. But I've been in therapy, working on myself. I have letters from my therapist. I don't care. She's my family. No, she's my daughter. And I will do everything in my power to keep her safe from people who tried to destroy her mother. I was sick, jealous, scared of losing Dominic. You were systematic, calculating. You created fake documents, filed false reports, tried to get me fired and arrested. You did that while healthy and clear-headed. Her face crumpled. I know. God, I know. And I hate myself for it. Good. Is there anything I can do? Anything at all to earn your forgiveness? I thought about it. Really thought about it. No, I said finally, because forgiveness isn't the same as trust. I might forgive you someday, but I will never, ever trust you near my daughter. That's not fair. Life isn't fair. You taught me that. She stood there, tears streaming. I lost everything. My son barely speaks to me. My husband moved into the guest house. I spend holidays alone, all because I was threatened by a woman I barely knew. You weren't threatened by me. You were threatened by the idea of Dominic loving someone he chose instead of someone you approved. Maybe. And instead of dealing with that like an adult, you tried to ruin my life. Yes. So here we are. She wiped her eyes. I really am sorry. For whatever that's worth. It's worth nothing without change. Real change. I am changing. Then change for yourself. Not to earn access to Isabel because that ship has sailed. I picked up my phone. I'm calling security now. You have 10 seconds to leave before I also call the police. She left. The police came anyway. I pressed charges for violating the restraining order. Lorraine got a $5,000 fine and probation. Dom was furious. She can't just show up at your workplace. She's desperate. I don't care. She's dangerous. I know. What if she tried to hurt you? She didn't. She just wanted to plead her case. And? Did it work? No. He relaxed slightly. Good. But I thought about that conversation a lot. About Lorraine's face. The genuine pain there. Do you think she really has changed? I asked Dom one night. Does it matter? Maybe. Kat, she tried to destroy you. Even if she's different now, we don't owe her anything. I know. But Isabel might want to know her grandmother someday. Then Isabel can make that choice when she's 18. But not before. Not while we're responsible for protecting her. You're right. Are you having second thoughts? No. just wondering if we're the villains in Lorraine's version of this story. We're not, but even if we were, I'd rather be the villain who protects my family than the hero who lets them get hurt. I kissed him. That's very dramatic. I learned from the best. Life continued. Isabel grew, started preschool, made friends, had birthday parties. Lorraine sent cards every year. We threw them away unopened. Dom's father became a permanent fixture in our lives. Isabel loved him, called him Papa, showed him her artwork, and made him watch Frozen 14 million times. You're a good grandfather, I told him once. I wish I'd been a better father. You can't change the past. No, but I can be better now. When Isabel was 4, Dom's father was diagnosed with lung cancer, advanced stage. 6 months, the doctor said. Maybe a year. Dom fell apart. His dad was the one family member who'd chosen us, who'd worked to make amends. I don't want him to die alone, Dom said. He won't. We'll be there. Mom's going to show up at the funeral. Then we'll deal with it. Dom's father deteriorated quickly. By November, he was in hospice. We visited every day. Isabel would crawl into bed with him, show him her schoolwork, tell him stories. You're going to be okay, mija, he'd say. You have good parents. They'll keep you safe. I know, Papa. And when you're older, if anyone tells you stories about your grandma Lorraine, you remember something. People are complicated. She did bad things, but she wasn't all bad. She was just broken in ways she couldn't fix. Isabel, too young to understand, just nodded. He died December 18th, peacefully, with Dom holding one hand and me holding the other. The funeral was December 23rd. Lorraine showed up. She looked like a ghost, hollow, barely there. She sat in the back, didn't approach us, didn't violate the restraining order. After the service, as people were leaving, she stood near the exit, watching Isabel play with my niece. Our eyes met. She mouthed, "She's beautiful." I nodded. She left. Dom saw the exchange. You okay? Yeah, just sad. About Dad? About everything. About how this all went so wrong. About how Isabel will grow up without knowing half her family. That's Lorraine's fault. I know, but it's still sad. We drove home in silence, put Isabel to bed, sat in the living room, surrounded by sympathy cards and casserole dishes from neighbors. Dad left me a letter, Dom said quietly. Do you want to read it? He handed it to me. His hands were shaking. The letter was short, written in Dom's father's shaky handwriting from his final days. Dominic, I'm proud of the man you've become. The husband, the father. You broke a cycle I couldn't break. Your mother and I raised you in toxicity and called it love, but you learned better. You chose better. I'm sorry I didn't protect Catalina when I should have. I'm sorry I enabled your mother for so many years. I'm sorry I taught you through my silence that peace was more important than justice. But I'm grateful you learned different, that you stood up for your wife, that you're raising Isabel in a home without manipulation or control. Your mother asked me to give you a message, to tell you she's sorry, to beg for another chance. I told her no, not because I don't believe people can change, but because some damage is irreparable. What she did to Catalina crossed lines that can't be uncrossed. But I want you to know something. Your mother does love you. In her broken, twisted way, she loves you. She just doesn't know how to love without controlling. And that's a tragedy for her. You don't owe her forgiveness. You don't owe her access to Isabel. You only owe yourself and your family peace. Be happy, son. That's the best revenge. Love, Dad. I was crying by the end. Dom was too. He was right, I said. About all of it. I know. Do you regret cutting off your mom? No, but I regret that it had to happen. I regret that she couldn't just be happy for me. Accept you. Love Isabel without conditions. Me too. We sat there, holding each other, mourning the family that could have been. Christmas came, our first major holiday without Dom's father. It felt empty despite our best efforts. Isabel noticed. Where's Papa? Papa's in heaven, remember? When's he coming back? Dom's face crumpled. He's not, baby. But he'll always be in our hearts. That's stupid. I want him here. I know. Me too. On Christmas morning, there was a package on our doorstep. No return address. No note. Inside was a hand-knitted blanket. Baby blue, with white stars. Incredibly intricate. Beautiful. And a card. For Isabel. Merry Christmas. L. Dom wanted to throw it away. I stopped him. It's just a blanket. It's a manipulation tactic. Maybe. Or maybe it's a grandmother who's trying the only way she knows how. We can't keep accepting gifts. It gives her hope. Would that be so terrible? A little hope? Kat, after everything she did. I know what she did. I lived it. But your dad was right. People are complicated. She's broken. That doesn't excuse what she did, but it explains it. So what, we just forgive her? No. But maybe we stop actively punishing her. We keep the boundaries. Keep the restraining order. But we don't have to be cruel. Dom looked at the blanket. Isabel will love this. I know. We kept it. Isabel slept with it every night. Called it her star blanket. When she asked where it came from, we said a family friend. Not ready to explain Grandma Lorraine yet. Years passed. Isabel grew, started elementary school, lost her first tooth, learned to ride a bike. Lorraine sent gifts on every birthday and Christmas. We kept some, donated others, never acknowledged them. But one year, when Isabel turned 7, the gift was different. A photo album, pictures of Dom as a child, baby photos, first day of school, birthday parties, Halloween costumes, photos I'd never seen before. At the back was a note. Every child deserves to know where they came from, even if their grandmother made terrible mistakes. These are Dominic's. Now they're Isabel's. Lorraine, Dom cried when he saw them. I forgot about most of these. She's giving you your history. Why? Because that's what grandmothers do. They keep the stories. She's not Isabel's grandmother. Not really. She is, though. Biologically. Legally. She just can't act like one because of her choices. Do we tell Isabel? Eventually. When she's old enough to understand. when she asks why she only has one grandmother. That conversation came when Isabel was 9. We were driving home from my mother's house. Isabel was quiet in the backseat. Mom, why don't I have a grandma on Dad's side? Dom and I exchanged glances. You do, I said carefully. She just doesn't visit. Why not? It's complicated, sweetheart. Did she die like Papa? No, she's alive. She just made some choices that hurt our family, so we decided it was safer for everyone if she stayed away. What kind of choices? Dom spoke up. She wasn't very nice to your mom before you were born. She did some things that were mean and unfair. And even though we gave her chances to apologize and change, she kept doing hurtful things. Like what? I took a breath. She tried to get me in trouble at work. She told lies about me. She tried to make your dad think I was a bad person. Isabel was quiet for a long moment. That's really mean. Yeah, it was. Is that why we never see her? Yes. A judge decided she needed to stay away from us to keep everyone safe. Does she want to see me? My heart broke. Yes, honey, she does. But I can't see her? Not right now. Maybe when you're older, if you want to, you can decide for yourself. But while you're young, we have to make sure you're safe. Am I safe from her? You are, because we have rules to protect you. Okay. She went back to looking out the window, but I could see her processing, thinking. That night she came into our room. Mom, can I ask you something? Of course. If Grandma Lorraine wanted to say sorry, would you let her? Careful territory. Has she contacted you? No, I just wondered. If she really changed, really understood why what she did was wrong, and proved it over a long time, then maybe. But saying sorry isn't enough. People have to show they've changed. How would she show it? By respecting our boundaries, by not trying to force her way back into our lives, by understanding that she hurt people, and those people need time to heal. Has she done that? Sort of. She sends gifts, which shows she thinks about you. But she also violated a court order once, which shows she still thinks rules don't apply to her. So it's complicated. Very. Isabel nodded seriously. I'm glad you protect me. Always, baby. She hugged me and went back to bed. But the questions didn't stop. Over the next year, Isabel became more curious. Asked about Lorraine's favorite color, her job, what she was like. She's a retired art teacher, Dom said. She loves classical music. She speaks 3 languages. She's very smart. She sounds cool. She is cool. She's just not safe for our family. Maybe she's safe now. Dom and I looked at each other. Maybe, I said. But we can't know that until you're old enough to protect yourself. When Isabel turned 10, she came to us with a request. I want to write Grandma Lorraine a letter. My stomach dropped. Why? Because everyone at school talks about their grandmas, and I want to know mine, even if I can't see her. Isabel, I know she did bad things, but Papa's gone, and Grandma Rosie is all I have. I want to know what the other one is like, even just through letters. Dom looked at me. What do you think? I think it's Isabel's choice, but we supervise. We read every letter, in and out. And if Lorraine uses this to manipulate or hurt Isabel, we stop immediately. Agreed. Isabel wrote her first letter that week. Dear Grandma Lorraine, my name is Isabel. I'm your granddaughter. I'm 10 years old. My favorite color is purple. I like to read and draw. I'm learning piano. Mom and Dad told me you did some things that hurt them before I was born. I don't really understand it all, but I know you can't visit. But I wanted to write to you anyway. Because you're my grandma. Do you like purple too? What do you like to do? Love, Isabel. We mailed it to Lorraine's address. Prepared for the worst. The response came 3 days later. Dear Isabel, thank you for your letter. It was the most wonderful surprise I've ever received. Yes, I'm your grandmother, and I've wanted to know you since the day you were born. My favorite color is blue, like the ocean. I used to teach art, so I love all colors, but blue is special. I like to paint, garden, and read mystery novels. I play piano too. Maybe someday you can play for me. You're right that I hurt your parents, especially your mother. I did terrible things because I was scared and selfish. I've spent the last 10 years trying to become someone better, someone who deserves to know someone as wonderful as you. Thank you for writing to me. It means more than you could know. With all my love, Grandma Lorraine. The letter was cautious, appropriate. Didn't badmouth us or try to manipulate Isabel. Can I write her back? Isabel asked. Yes, but we still read everything first. The letters continued, once a month. Isabel told Lorraine about school, friends, hobbies. Lorraine shared stories about Dom as a child, taught Isabel about art through descriptions, sent book recommendations. She never asked to meet, never pushed boundaries, just existed on the periphery of Isabel's life. She seems different, Dom said after 6 months of letters. Maybe she is. Do you trust her? No, but I trust Isabel. And if this is what Isabel needs, we can manage it. When Isabel turned 12, she asked the question we'd been dreading. Can I meet her? In person? Why? Dom asked. Because she's my grandma, and she's been writing to me for 2 years, and she seems nice. Seeming nice isn't the same as being safe. I know, but I'm not a baby. I can handle it. Dom and I talked for hours that night. She's old enough to start making some decisions, I said. But is she old enough to recognize manipulation? We'll be there, supervising. Lorraine won't get a chance to manipulate her. What if this is a mistake? Then we'll deal with it. But Dom, we can't protect Isabel from Lorraine forever. Eventually, she'll be an adult. She'll be able to contact Lorraine herself. Wouldn't it be better to facilitate that contact now, while we still have control? I hate that you're right. Me too. We set conditions. The meeting would be in a public place, for 1 hour. We'd be present the entire time. If Lorraine said or did anything inappropriate, we'd leave immediately. We contacted Lorraine through her lawyer. We still communicated only through legal channels. She agreed to everything, didn't push back, didn't try to negotiate. The meeting was scheduled for May 15th, a Saturday, at a park with a cafe. We arrived early. Isabel was nervous. What if she doesn't like me? She'll love you, Dom said. That's what I'm worried about. Lorraine arrived exactly on time. She looked so different. Older, obviously, but also softer, less sharp-edged. She wore jeans and a simple sweater, no jewelry except a watch. She saw Isabel and stopped walking, just stared. Isabel stared back. Then Isabel walked over. "Hi, Grandma." Lorraine's face crumpled. "Hi, sweetheart. You're even more beautiful than your pictures." They sat at a table. We sat at the next table over, close enough to hear everything. The conversation was awkward at first, polite. Then Isabel showed Lorraine her sketchbook. Lorraine's face lit up. "You have real talent. Look at this shading. Did someone teach you?" "I taught myself, from YouTube. When I was your age, I was painting portraits. Would you like me to send you some technique books?" "Really? That would be amazing." They talked about art for the rest of the hour. Lorraine didn't ask personal questions, didn't pry, didn't badmouth us or try to create secrets. When time was up, Isabel hugged her. "Can we do this again?" Lorraine looked at us. "If your parents say yes, we'll think about it," I said. On the drive home, Isabel was glowing. "She's really cool, and she knows so much about art." "She is cool," Dom admitted. "I'd forgotten that part." "Can we see her again?" "Maybe. We'll see how it goes." We scheduled another meeting a month later, then another. By the end of summer, we were meeting once a month regularly. Lorraine never overstepped, never asked for more, never tried to poison Isabel against us. "She really has changed," Dom said after one meeting. "Or she's playing a very long game." "You don't believe that." "I don't know what I believe, but slowly, grudgingly, I started to trust. Not fully. Not enough to leave Isabel alone with Lorraine, but enough to acknowledge that people could grow." When Isabel turned 13, Lorraine asked if she could attend Isabel's birthday party. "I know it's a lot to ask, but I'd love to celebrate with her. I don't have to stay long, just to give her my gift and sing happy birthday." Dom looked at me. "It's your call," I said. "She's your mother. What do you think?" "I think 13 years is a long time to hold a grudge, and I think Lorraine has proven she's trying. But I also think we need to be careful. So yes? Conditional yes. She comes for cake, 30 minutes, then she leaves." Lorraine showed up with a huge wrapped box and tears in her eyes. She hugged Isabel, met Isabel's friends, sang happy birthday. Then she pulled me aside. "Thank you for letting me be part of this." "Don't thank me. Thank Isabel. She's the one who wanted you here. I know I can never make up for what I did, but I'm trying. Every day I'm trying. I can see that." Can I ask you something? Do you think you'll ever forgive me?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. "I think I already have," I said slowly. "But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or trusting completely. It just means I'm not actively angry anymore. That's more than I deserve. Maybe, but it's what you're getting." She smiled, sad but genuine. "I'll take it." After the party, Dom found me in the kitchen. "That was okay, right? Having her here?" "Yeah, it was okay. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for her to do something horrible. Maybe there is no other shoe. Maybe she's just a woman who destroyed her relationships and spent 13 years learning how to be better." "Do you really believe that?" "I want to." Life continued. Isabel started high school. Lorraine came to her art shows, sent birthday cards, called once a month to chat. The restraining order expired. We didn't renew it. Didn't need to. When Isabel was 16, she came to us with a request. "Can Grandma Lorraine come over for dinner? Like, to our house?" Dom and I exchanged glances. Our home, the place Lorraine had never been allowed. "Why?" I asked. "Because it's weird that we only see her in public. And I want her to see where I live, see my room, my artwork on the walls." "Isabel, our house is our safe space. Letting her in." "I know, but she's been good for 6 years. When does she stop being punished?" "It's not about punishment." "Isn't it, though? You've forgiven her. She's proved she's changed, but you still treat her like she's dangerous." Dom spoke up. "Because she was dangerous, Isabel. You didn't see what she did to your mom. But that was 13 years ago. People change. You've always taught me that." She was right. Of course she was right. "Let us talk about it," I said. That night, Dom and I sat on our porch. "I don't want her in our house," he said. "This is our space, the one place she's never contaminated." "I know, but Isabel's right. We can't keep her in purgatory forever. So what do? We let her in. One dinner. If it goes well, maybe more. If it doesn't, we go back to public meetings." "Are you sure?" "No, but I'm sure that our daughter is almost an adult, and we've raised her to be kind, forgiving, and strong. We have to trust that." "Okay." The dinner was scheduled for October 1st, a Saturday. I cooked lasagna. Dom set the table. Isabel cleaned her room like Lorraine was the Queen of England. Lorraine arrived with flowers and wine. She stood at our door looking terrified. "Come in," I said. She stepped inside, looked around. "Your home is beautiful." "Thank you." "Isabel, can I see your room?" Isabel lit up and dragged her upstairs. Dom and I stayed in the kitchen listening to their voices. Laughter, excitement. "This is surreal," Dom said. "Yeah, my mother is in our house." "I know. And she's being normal. People can surprise you." Dinner was good. Normal. We talked about Isabel's college plans, Lorraine's garden, Dom's job, like a regular family. When Lorraine left, she hugged us all. "Thank you for giving me this chance. I know I don't deserve it." "You're welcome," I said, and meant it. After she left, Dom pulled me close. We did it. Did what? Broke the cycle. We protected our daughter, held our boundaries, and still left room for grace. You think so? I know so. My mother destroyed people because she couldn't handle not being in control. But we taught Isabel that boundaries and love can coexist. That forgiveness doesn't mean being a doormat. That family is complicated but worth fighting for. That's very philosophical. I've had a lot of therapy. I laughed. Me too. We stood there in our home, surrounded by the life we'd built. Despite Lorraine, because of Lorraine, and I realized something. She hadn't won, but we hadn't lost either. We'd just survived and built something beautiful anyway. Isabel graduated high school. Lorraine came to the ceremony, sat with my family, cheered when Isabel's name was called. At the party after, I found Lorraine looking at photos on our wall, pictures of Isabel's life, first day of school, lost teeth, piano recitals. You missed all of this, I said. I know. Do you regret it? Every single day. Good. She looked at me. You don't pull your punches, do you? Not anymore. I learned from the best. She smiled sadly. I was so threatened by you, your strength, your certainty. I thought if Dominic loved you, he'd stop loving me. Love doesn't work like that. I know that now. Took me 13 years and a lot of therapy, but I finally get it. Was it worth it? All those years of missing out? No, but I can't change the past. I can only show up for the future. That's all any of us can do. Isabel left for college in August. She chose an art school 3 states away. Lorraine helped her move in, carried boxes, made her bed, cried when we left her in that dorm room. She's going to do amazing things, Lorraine said on the drive home. Yeah, she is. You raised her well. We raised her well. All of us. Even you, in the strange way this all worked out. I'm part of we now. You're Isabel's grandmother. You've earned your place. Barely, but you've earned it. She was quiet for a long moment. Thank you, Catalina, for not giving up on the possibility of redemption. Thank Dom and Isabel. They're the ones who pushed for this. But you're the one who had every right to say no, and you didn't. No, I guess I didn't. We drove in silence for a while. Then Lorraine spoke again. Can I ask you something? Do you think about what I did? About that time in the hospital? Sometimes. Do you hate me for it? No, I hated you for years. But hate is exhausting. Forgiveness is easier. I don't know if I could have forgiven if someone did that to me. You would have, because the alternative is letting it destroy you, and I had too much to fight for. She nodded. I'm sorry. I know I've said it before, but I need to say it again. I'm so deeply sorry for everything I did, for the pain I caused, for almost destroying your marriage and your life. I know. I hope someday I can be someone you trust completely. Maybe. But trust is earned over years, not moments. Keep showing up. Keep being the person you're trying to become. That's all anyone can do. I will. I promise. And she did. For the next 4 years, through Isabel's college journey, through a global pandemic, through personal struggles and triumphs, Lorraine showed up. She respected boundaries, asked permission, never pushed, just existed as a steady, supportive presence. When Isabel graduated college with honors, Lorraine was there. When Isabel got her first gallery showing, Lorraine bought 3 paintings. When Isabel met her future wife, Emma, Lorraine welcomed her without judgment. Your grandmother is amazing, Emma said at their engagement party. So supportive and kind. Isabel laughed. She wasn't always. People change. Yeah, they really do. The wedding was beautiful. Small ceremony, intimate reception. Isabel wore our grandmother's dress. Emma wore her mother's. And when it came time for the family dance, Isabel danced with Dom, then with me, then with Lorraine. I watched from the sidelines crying. Dom put his arm around me. You okay? Yeah, just thinking about everything it took to get here. Was it worth it? Every horrible, painful, terrifying moment. Even the police interrogation? Even that. He kissed my temple. I'm proud of us. Me too. Lorraine came over after the dance. Her makeup was smudged from crying, she said, for giving me the chance to be here for this. You earned it. I spent 13 years earning it. I'd do 13 more if needed. I know you would. Can I tell you something? Something I've never said before? Sure. When Dominic first brought you home, I was jealous. Not because you weren't good enough, but because you were perfect. Strong, smart, confident. Everything I'd tried to be but failed at. I saw you and knew I'd lost control of my son. And instead of celebrating his happiness, I tried to destroy yours. Why are you telling me this now? Because Isabel deserves to know her grandmother isn't perfect, that I'm a work in progress, and because you deserve to hear the truth I couldn't admit 13 years ago. The truth being, that I was wrong about everything. You weren't trying to steal my son, you were trying to love him, and I should have been grateful. I felt tears starting. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for letting me be here to say it. We stood there, 2 women who'd been enemies, then strangers, now something close to friends. You know what's funny? I said. What? I hated you for so long, spent so much energy being angry, and now I look at you and just see Isabel's grandmother, someone who messed up but tried to fix it. Is that enough? To be Isabel's grandmother? It's more than enough. She smiled. I don't deserve your grace. Nobody deserves grace. That's what makes it grace. Later that night, after the guests had left and the venue was being cleaned up, I found Dom sitting alone in the garden. You okay? I asked, sitting beside him. Yeah, just thinking about my dad, wishing he could have been here. He would have loved this. He would have loved seeing Mom be part of it, seeing her actually be a grandmother. She's trying, really trying. I know. Sometimes I forget how hard it was. The investigation, the CPS calls, the false reports. It feels like another life. It was another life. We're different people now. Better people. I'd like to think so. We sat in comfortable silence. Then Dom spoke again. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if Mom had succeeded? If you'd been arrested or fired or driven away? Sometimes. But I think everything happened exactly how it needed to. The struggle made us stronger, made our marriage unbreakable, taught Isabel what real boundaries look like. So you're glad it happened? I'm not glad, but I'm grateful for what it taught us. That's very zen. I've had a lot of therapy too. He laughed, pulled me close. I love you, Catalina Castellano. I love you too. Thanks for not leaving me when my family was a nightmare. Thanks for choosing me even when it cost you everything. You're worth everything. So are you. We sat there until the stars came out, holding each other, grateful for survival, for growth, for grace. Because that's what family is, really. Not the people who never hurt you, but the people who hurt you, and everyone works to heal anyway. or the people who protect you when others hurt you, or the people you build from scratch when your blood family fails. Family is complicated, messy, sometimes broken beyond repair. But sometimes, if you're very lucky and very stubborn, broken things can be made beautiful again. Not the same as they were, but beautiful in their own scarred, imperfect way. And that's enough. That's more than enough. That's everything.